I see all my friends. Oh, wow. Yeah, so shitty robots into shitty internet trolling and name dropping. So I hope you like lizards. So one cold mid-January morning a few years ago, I awoke from one of those really ugly, sweaty post-bender slumbers where like I wake up and I have like a midnight snack s'mores wrapper stuck to my face, and like because I was sweaty, the ingredients like transferred from the label onto my face in reverse, and you have to like use like hand sanitizer in order to like remove it. Anyway, it was kind of like Friday night. Before pulling off the label, of course, as I usually do, check Twitter. And my notifications were especially noisy. I think Talia's German press fans would call it der shitstorm. Now, at that point in my life of social media rabble-rousing, as some people know me for, I was used to noise, but this cacophony of like anger and confusion was much larger than I had ever experienced before, and the root of it was someone who was very important to the web development community that I work on. His name was Jeffrey Zeldman. He is a very important man in the web development industry. He's done a lot of work to get web standards noticed by web developers, which makes building the web easy for me as a developer and also for users of the web to just be able to access it. So he's like the uncle of the internet, I don't know. He also like convinces once a year people to wear blue hats because he did once, which is totally normal. Anyway, that day, that mid-January day a few years ago, he found something on the internet that I wrote as a joke, and he perceived it to be true, and he was not pleased about it, so he posted it to hundreds of thousands of his followers, and they were very upset. So what they were very upset about was this satirical piece that I wrote called A Call for Web Developers to Deprecate Their CSS. CSS is a markup language. Developers use it to style, to make the web look nice. It stands for cascading style sheets, but like because acronyms are so pervasive in our community, as are men who are very quick to correct me when I'm wrong about acronyms, I purposely call them California style sheets, and to this day, that haunts me. So I wrote this piece about deprecating CSS because I always like to joke like we should just use one language and that language should be JavaScript, because also people like when you say that what you do is better than what they're doing. So yes, he had never seen more misinformation on the web standards in a single place, you're welcome, and he needed hundreds of thousands of his followers to know. And so of course I had der shitstorm of many people asking me if I was serious, telling me I should delete the post because satire is harmful, or giving really, really constructive, great feedback, like this. So when you write satire and people assume it's real, it's hard to be offended by responses like this because they're not saying that I, Jenn Schiffer, am stupid. They're saying Jenn Schiffer, who wrote that post, that character is stupid. So this doesn't like harm me, but the fact of the matter is this is actually how people really respond to when people blog and post content online and write code and are being sincere. And this is one of the issues that causes me to want to write satire, to sort of bring this out in the open that these are not ways to respond to people that are creating content. Because even, I mean, after hours of this, even my thick, leathery, lizard scales, it cuts kind of deep. So my friend Anil Dash, who had spoken here once, and I promised him I'd name drop him, was fortunately there to come to my defense to nudge at folks that they had been trolled. This also bought me a few minutes to finally like wipe those ingredients off my face. It was a vegan s'more. But it made me think that I get to this point of time. Not many people were dedicating much time to poking fun at how ridiculous our industry is when it comes to taking ourselves seriously, or the ramifications of forgetting that you have hundreds of thousands of followers and maybe like when you post something like that, people are going to pile on in a larger way. Many people with an audience, sometimes myself included, remain strangely oblivious to that power. But I did get a lot of really great, excellent responses. This is my all-time favorite tweet ever, besides the one where Soulja Boy was doing the lyrics to that Vanessa Carlton song. So there were really great responses from like delighted women, excited to see like the kind of people, men, who make them hesitant or afraid to contribute to tech fall so hard and so fast. Not only for what a humorist wrote, but what a woman wrote. And it changed the landscape not only for me as a shitty writer and woman in tech, but for a lot of people in tech. So I'm here today to tell you the story of one of the few, if not the first, satires of the front-end web development industry. And I might be biased, but I think the best, which is me, Jenn Schiffer. So I do a lot of things besides writing satire. I am the creator of the Blood Thinners Slack channel in the XOXO Slack, so shout out to the 6 fellow Blood Thinners. I'm an analog pixel artist that does mostly like pixel art erotica on paper, as most of you probably do. I build and deploy web applications at a company called Boku, and I'm not just mentioning that because my CEO is here, but I once took down our entire company infrastructure with one command, and so like I'm forever indebted to them keeping me around. But the great thing about the company is that they not only like tolerate my voice, but they celebrate it, and they allow me to do something as my hobby, which is very strange, which is trolling our entire industry and the people we're trying to get to give us money. So, yeah. So this all started back when I was a little baby lizard, long before Apple Watches existed, and the idea of replacing your blood with a younger person's blood to live forever was just science fiction. I was working at an independent bookstore and finishing up my master's in computer science, and I didn't have many friends in the industry at the time, and this was only like 3 or 4 years ago. So most of my conversation in tech was with my pal Nick, who worked at the NBA. He still is there. And I actually left academia to work as a senior front developer at the NBA. And much like Nick, who also grew up with me in Central Jersey, we grew up using humor as a defense mechanism and for entertainment. And this is why we got along so well. And we always had great banter, making fun of each other, basically like punching down on ourselves upon others. And that's how I work with a lot of the best people I work with now and my closest friends, is just humor as a defense mechanism and entertainment. It's always been really important to me because our industry has this tendency to be super overly serious and self-serving. There's this bizarre phenomenon where we create superheroes of each other and we call each other JavaScript ninjas or like rock stars, and it gets to the point where we feel the pressure to call ourselves these things, or else we feel like we're inferior to those who do call themselves rock stars. And this directly contributes to imposter syndrome, and I'm sure it happens to people in all types of industries, especially creative. Because like I can't call myself a rock star, I don't own a guitar. But maybe I'm being unfair to us because people in tech, we are building really important things that are life-saving and changing lives. We are changing the landscape of mortality for the greater good, and definitely not ever for selfish classist reasons. And as a web developer myself, I am blessed to have the power to build tools that change privileged lives for the better. I mean, my work is literally saving lives. It's all very important stuff that we're bringing into the world, and you're very welcome for being able to share this genius with me and the web, because without the web, we would be living in a much more dystopian world. So one day I was chatting with my friend Nick on IRC, which is like Slack for old people, and I received a recruiter email seeking my exemplary rockstar JavaScript developer skills, and we couldn't help but laugh. I mean, don't get me wrong, I once made a xylophone out of HTML and CSS, so technically I am a JavaScript rockstar. But Nick and I decided at that point that we were not simply JavaScript rockstars, but we are CSS perverts, and that became our sort of name for when we would write fake tech commentary and tutorials, mostly to entertain ourselves. and keep grounded in our very super serious industry. It was mostly emails to each other and like IRC messages and random YouTube and Tumblr links. We didn't really have anything centralized until 2012 when Medium came out. If you're not familiar with Medium, it came out in like August 2012. It was like the first blogging platform to be inspired by a cable television series about psychics. It's like the TED Talks of blogging. And because of that, it was naturally the perfect home for CSS perverts and continues to be the perfect platform for satirical content, and here's why. So one, it was originally invite only. And for an industry that cries about inclusivity, we sure love exclusivity. She said at an inclusive conference that required an application to get in. It also led people to assume that those who wrote on Medium were being like paid directly out of Ev Williams' pocket. And so when we started posting bullshit articles on it, people, especially those who weren't invited yet, were very upset because they thought we were getting paid for it, which we weren't. The White House, I think, at some point used Medium, which is cool. The Obamas are always like at the cutting edge of like web applications, and people are quick to adopt the ones that they use themselves. I mean, we saw this when Michelle joined Pinterest. And by the way, if she's listening right now, I added you to my Pantera board 3 years ago, and I'm still waiting on you to add it. It has 132 followers who are all waiting for fresh Pantera-only content. So if you're here, or if someone can relay that message to her, that would be fantastic. Medium is also gorgeous and so easy to use. And the fact that not only the fact that the president like used it gave more credibility to CSS perverts, the gorgeousness of the interface did too. You can literally write the word garbage 5,000 times, like up here, and it will still look like a beautiful, intelligent essay that crosses the boundaries of politics and culture. It makes my like written in 10-minute like bullshit look Pulitzer-worthy, which is good because I constantly lie in my writing about having a Pulitzer. But from an interacting with the reader standpoint, what made Medium great and stand out from the rest was their annotations, the way to interact with the readers. It allowed users to write notes as they read your posts. There was no need to read everything. And so people, men, were quick to argue and comment on something I've written without reading the whole thing. And when that happens, beautiful, horrifying things occur. And you know, folks always say not to read the comments, but when it comes to satire, especially mine, always read the comments, because it's beautiful. So few people know that my first Medium post was not actually satire. It was a list of my favorite episode titles of the beloved trauma reality show, Rescue 911, hosted by William Shatner. I had never really seen Star Trek until last year, so growing up, William Shatner was the host of Rescue 911. Surprisingly, this post didn't get very popular, but shouts out to the kid in Altoona, Pennsylvania who licked a freezer and got his tongue stuck. I think about him all the time. My first piece of satire I wrote was inspired by a former coworker asking another coworker what it was like to work with me, a woman. You know, the hard questions. Now, let's not forget that both coworkers worked with me, so the idea that one was asking the other this is absolutely bananas, besides everything else that was going on. And everything in the post is true and filled with very good advice. But the difference between just making fun of like a thing and satirizing it is that satire should evoke a discussion or teach a lesson, and that's what I try to do in my work. So naturally, the lesson of what to expect when working with women in technology was to stop generalizing and stereotyping people or asking questions like, what is it like to work with women? Because we all know the answer, which is it's very sticky. So later on, I wrote what would become my first really super popular satirical post that was kind of technical, how Node.js is going to replace JavaScript. If you're not familiar, Node.js is JavaScript. That's what the .js stands for. And it was sort of playing at people. I mean, the JavaScript community, we get all very sensitive about what we do. And everyone is very triggered by the whole blank is killer and blank is superior to, or blank is replacing blank rhetoric. Again, what we're doing is very important, life-saving. There's no time for jokes. And being a post about code and JavaScript, it garnered a lot of attention, specifically of men jumping in to tell me what JavaScript was before even reading the whole article. Because if they read to the end of the article, they probably would have realized I was joking at the point where I said that I live in a box with my dog named Lucifer. The surreal part of this, of course, being that I'm a cat person. So this is the point in my writing career where I truly started to maintain a character. And having one lets you deflect the haters because the insults and the anger are at the character writing, as I mentioned before. My character is a young web dev blogger who has the confidence of a mediocre white male in upper management. Doesn't read more than the first 2 sentences of any blog post. So basically the demographic of all the men who spend a lot of time being angry with me about what I write. And I injected my character traits and satire lessons in my post bios at the end. And it's where I got weird or better stated the lessons that I was trying to teach in my posts, be it my thoughts on the media industry and their stubborn, incorrect ideas about DRM, or lying about having a Pulitzer. Which, by the way, somebody on Reddit said that I should go to jail for lying about having a Pulitzer because it's like lying about being a doctor or a cop. So my bios became very popular. There were people who tracked them on their own blogs, and they served a distinct purpose and the key to great tech satire, or any satire. And that's be confident enough so people initially think you're serious, but surreal enough so those who pay attention know you're not. And you'll get responses that range from demanding you prove you have a Pulitzer, to accusing you of doing drugs, and assuming you have no idea what you're talking about, or deeming you worthy of their hand in marriage or sperm. None of these responses are how you appropriately interact with others creating content online, or really how you should react to anybody. The kind of folks that fear, getting, when contributing to stuff like that, they just, I don't know. It's just really shitty to know that this is just like a joke to me, but like the fact that these are things that I see being told to my friends is, it's kind of messed up. So that's why I sort of continue writing satire, and really anybody else here too can satirize their own industry with 2 simple tricks. One, write about something you have only a vague idea about. I did this with this language called Haskell. So I went to a Haskell meetup because it was a language I wanted to learn, and I asked the guy why the compiler handled ranges in a strange way, and he told me that because I was a JavaScript developer, I'd be too slow to understand. So I did what any normal, hurt, embarrassed woman surrounded by men would do, and that's use humor as a defense mechanism and totally roast the fuck out of their community. And I did. And not only did it start a conversation about how their compiler works, because honestly it was weird and I was right, it started a widespread conversation about how toxic the Haskell community is, and also how people react when something that they work with is criticized. I wasn't personally attacking their own characteristics or like their family members or someone they loved. This is like a language, a compiler of a language that did something strange that's not normal, and I was saying, hey, can you explain why this is going on? Anybody who wasn't mad at me for poking fun at a real thing about their favorite language was more concerned with the fact that I configured my terminal to include emoji and call me Princess Jenn. And which got me called a fake nerd. I manually configured my dot files to add emoji and call myself Princess Jenn. And got called a fake nerd for it. To be honest, I was truly surprised at how this post sparked such extreme amounts of anger, and I was surprised at how unsurprised the women in that community were, which is reflective of how broken and toxic its community is, and a lot of the communities in tech are just like that. Someone had called my former employer thinking I was still there and tried to get me fired. I received death threats. It sucked. Over fucking Haskell. But at the expense of the few weeks of bad stuff, today I know so many incredible people in the community who are doing great things to make it more inclusive. I'm running low on time, so I'm just going to go through the next few slides because... Okay. So anyway, another thing that you can do is write about something you have literally no idea about. It's a good opportunity to have 500 guys trying to explain it to you for free. So despite what my name tag says, I'm not the creator of Soylent and Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I don't know much about it. It's like real money, but it's fake. And I dated a guy who had it, and then he lost it. It was tragic. So I wrote like a post about it, like what happens if the computer that has all the Bitcoins on it is destroyed? Like, you know, it's like an honest question for someone who doesn't know anything about it. And Reddit got super upset. Apparently, Bitcoin enthusiasts are very sensitive about their currency, and they're used to a lot of bullshit being written about it. My post was called another liberal smear job against Bitcoin, and it sparked a very heated debate on global warming, which is obviously the intentions of my post. It was also one of the many instances where I wrote nothing about feminism, but was sort of called one as a backhanded compliment, and that top comment is what I want in my obituary. That's it. The best was when Kevin Rose, who's like a famous guy with 2 first names, started seriously putting me to task on my post. He was like saying a bunch of words I don't know, but in the end, we all learned like valuable, everlasting life lessons. And not all the comments were bad, though. There's always good comments. There's always really like call to actions and like thought-provoking people asking questions that want me to comment on things. So like this guy, Janubis, wanted me to comment 3 to 5 years now. It's only been 2 years, so you know it's been a couple of years since then. And here's my comment on Bitcoin. It's doing great, really. I was wrong. I'm sorry. With every post I write, I imagine that it'll be the one that no one likes or falls for, and I have to go back to like more healthy hobbies like exercising and like not getting drunk to the point that I wake up with like a s'more wrap around my face. But it hasn't happened yet. Last week I wrote a post about how making sites look good on mobile devices only promotes people driving and walking with their phones on those nice-looking sites, so it's dangerous and we're doing great harm. And as of today, it has over 40 blog responses. Many of them are men telling me I'm wrong about something, but even more people playing along on the joke, which is great. It turns out there's still a huge market for that front-end dev satire Jeffrey Zeldin was unsure about. And because of my satire, I've gained a horrible reputation of being a funny woman with good commentary on what goes on in the community. And I've been invited all over the world to give talks, even satirical ones. And this one I made up like a bullshit algorithm. I mean, it's a real algorithm, but like it doesn't do anything interesting. And of course, it was universally adored. And you know what? It's funny because like I got paid and sent to a beach resort to give it, so sucks for you, Daniel. I've even written a chapter in a real-life like print and digital book put out by a reputable publisher, which you should check out. All the profits go to EFF. Yeah. But nobody pays me to make satire. I'm very fortunate that I have a full-time job that pays me really well building web applications and keeping me in this community. So when I write satire, it's in my very little free time. Once in a while, I'll just tweet Venmo me, and one of my best friends will send me 20 cents. Or I'll like ask for a skeleton, and somebody will buy me a skeleton, which is like really nice. So I'm kind of like on the other spectrum of content creation, where like this isn't something I can do full time because I have a full-time job and I like it now, and so you know, it's just interesting. But like I used to write a post like once a week, and now I only write like 2 or 3 times a year because I have very little free time. Not only I write a post in like 10 minutes, but then I have to monitor the comments, not just for the entertainment, but also for my safety. And sometimes like money and skeletons and all those good things are overshadowed by the bad. This is somebody wrote about me, not my character, on Reddit after that book came out. That I kind of crap out whatever on GitHub, forks a bunch, writes these funny satires now and then while chiming in on things like the wage gap and misogyny. It's true. This is complete trash, about as funny as lymphoma, but I guess I'm just a misogynist driving women out of tech. This quote is a perfect example of a person who's upset with my visibility, especially as a woman, and with the friends I've made and the jobs I have and the things that I create. And when men go after a woman in tech, they usually claim that they're not a real developer, like the fake nerd. And usually claim, oh, they don't really code, but I've actually contributed a lot to the open source community. A lot of people know of my work and stuff I've built. So all they really can do is resolve to calling it just trash. And again, this is directed at me and not my character, so it's not like a pleasant thing to experience. Other downsides are, like Gamergate, that really fucked things up. This guy who goes by Fart decided to investigate me and some friends, and they discovered that the creators of Twitter followed me because they're fans of my work, and decided that must mean that I'm the reason why Gamergaters are being suspended from Twitter, not because they were threatening to rape and kill people. I post a screenshot that's up here because, like most WordPress posts, it talks about apologizing about him trying out new WordPress themes before he goes into his shitty graphics. And again, I'm forced to use humor as a defense mechanism in order to try to essentially save my life by reaching out to them and also pointing out that Sabrina the Teenage Witch follows me. And at this point, they were like, oh, okay, she's a real person. I have to prove I'm a real human being in order to get them to stop sending me Google Maps Street View images of my apartment, which really sucks. So yeah. And then the thing is that since I've started writing, a lot of men have started writing text satire, which is cool. I'm into it. But they don't get yelled at. They don't get this kind of scrutiny. They don't get screenshots of Google Street View maps of their apartment. And it sucks because I'm a woman. Obviously, this is a huge problem for them. And when you're a man, you could literally do anything. And what also sucks is that I'm better at it. So yeah, I don't write much satire anymore, but when I do it for those rooting for me, the women that tell me that they use my work as an example on how to defend themselves from sexism, from guys who now know how to call out their friends and coworkers on when they say misogynist shit and treating people badly on the internet. And when you're a funny person on the internet, you get lots of really cool people who want to be your friend. They want to work with you. They want you to come to their really awesome festival and tell your story. And they want to be like you, and that feels really, really good. So I do it for those opportunities and the art and the friends. And so this day, I continue to try to keep the web development community fun, diverse, inclusive, weird. A place where someone can publish code they wrote and not worry about somebody immediately calling them stupid or doing it differently than they would. And so I want to end my story with a few quick lessons I hope folks learn from my lady code troll origins, which is not everything is true on the internet. Shocking. So before providing feedback on a thing, consume the whole thing. Try to be a nice person. There are so many avenues to contact a person when you perceive them as incorrect. Try to do it privately and be nice. We all should be here to learn and educate and most importantly, have fun with what we do. I'm so tired. A friend of mine left tech this week. And that breaks my heart because I want more women around me, and she's really talented, and it's just, if you're not fully passionate and all in on this, it really chips away at you. So stop doing that to my friends. Don't let the industry or community eat you. The tech industry and communities are a huge part of my life, but they're not the only part of my life. I do a lot of things. You should allow yourself to be an individual, allow yourself and others to remain flawed. There's no valid reason to make threats, name call, harass, stalk, or be a jerk to your peers. And if you're a content creator, remember that you're more important than your audience. I think Lucy said yesterday, be gentle to yourself. It's really important. Your safety and your health and your sense of humor are your powers, and you have to protect them. When things in real life that sound like satire start to happen, it's way past the time where we need to start reflecting on how we are fostering a society built on hate, classism, racism, sexism, transphobia. Too many times I see people say, oh, at first I thought that was The Onion, or oh, this sounded like a Jenn Schiffer article, without discussing the issues further. We cannot let people advance tech for their own selfish reasons while they pretend that they're doing it for everyone. We can't all have access to young people's blood. Thank you.